OpenAI is for profit. The IMF tells El Salvador to cool it. And ecstasy in Metland, baby. All that and more coming up on Block and Order. Welcome to Block and Order, the show that explores the legal issues facing the world of Web3 and beyond. I am a beaming, over the moon, elated Kyle Lawrence, and this man I'm about to introduce, not even he can wipe the smile off my face.
Typo number. Through. It is gone.
Mr. Moish Peltz.
Well, nice to see you again, Kyle. I know we were on a little bit of a break, but it feels good to be back, and I'm happy, for all the New York Mets fans out there who, don't always have a lot to be happy about. But hey, $300 million later, look, you got a playoff series win. So
listen, money works. Yeah, it's been several decades of it being not great. I'm 45, and the Mets have spent probably less than 10% of my life being, forget about good, just largely mediocre. And it's like I don't know, Shawshank Redemption. Basically, I've spent the last 20 years just crawling through human excrement, but myself and all the other Met fans, we have emerged victorious and clean, and this is a new day, and it's awesome, and I'm here for it, and hope you are too.
All right, let's calm down. You won one series.
But it was exciting.
It is October. At least you're not a Marlins fan, so
that's true. That's true. Well, thank you for letting us digress and talk about baseball for a second, folks. On Block and Order, we discuss the legal issues and the world in general of all emerging technologies, whether it be blockchain, cryptocurrency, AI, and just cool new innovations in general. The show is designed as a point-counterpoint style program where Moish and I discuss the pros and cons of various issues that come up, the topics du jour, as you were. We try to come at it from different angles, to the extent that that's even feasible. We design it to have each segment be 3 minutes and 30 seconds, but we're lawyers and we get paid by the word, and sometimes we're verbose and we go over that time limit. What can I say? Other times we get it just right. What's that?
Deal with it.
Yeah, deal with it, viewer. That's right, our one viewer. Take that. Remember, Block and Order is available on all podcast platforms as well as on YouTube. So I think without further ado, let's kick off the rust and get to the order. Well, kicking us off, this is an interesting one. The Lido DAO, Moish, you remember these guys? They're facing
I remember these guys.
Yeah, they were huge. Are they still huge?
They are huge. They're still one of the largest staking service providers.
They were like the biggest one for a while, weren't they? Or they were up there, right up there.
I mean, I can check the stats while you're doing the intro here, but they're definitely up there.
Yeah, for sure. So Lido DAO is facing a lawsuit from token buyers alleging the sale of unregistered securities, testing the legal standing of a decentralized organization in court. In response, the Lido DAO members voted to appoint Dolphin CL LLC, which aims to represent the DAO in court and file a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, a move seen as an attempt to protect attorney-client privilege. Moish, this is an interesting tactic, as you were. What do you think about this? Do they have a chance in hell? What's going on here?
It'll be interesting to see how the plaintiffs respond here, because I think they're going to be a little bit challenged to say, we have a cause of action against Lido DAO, whoever's performing the staking services, and that's who we're trying to sue. We don't care what entity it is. And so if that Lido DAO then points to that entity and says, hey, they're defending us, this is the entity which is liable, there's no reason they have to accept that at face value, and I presume they won't here. So it's going to be on the DAO to make the case there, and it'll be interesting to see if in fact this entity is going to be able to mount a defense on behalf of the DAO as a whole. And Kyle, while I was checking, at least according to Dune.com, the analytics provider, Lido currently has a 27% market share, which is the number one market share of all of the ETH staking services.
Wow.
So far and away, the second highest is Coinbase with 11.5%. So this is like,
blowing everybody out of the water.
Yeah, exactly.
What's interesting that I found was that this is actually being brought by the buyers and not by the SEC. Usually it's the SEC that says, hey, you're selling unregistered securities and you can't do that. And and all that, but it's not them. It's the actual token holders. You would think that if they were doing so well, why are they doing that?
Well, it exactly, and this kind of really highlights the challenges of if you have a DAO that is not wrapped in a legal entity, and um, a, as we've seen in other cases, the courts are going to presume if there's no entity, we like to presume things are general partnerships because that's what
Right.
we as judges do. And this is a major DAO where there's lots of big institutions that have ETH staked in this general partnership. There's investors like A16Z and other limited partner like venture investors in the company, and so if everyone that's staking and investing and whatever has unlimited liability as a general partner, then the jig is up. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out from here
Yeah.
and whether this sticks.
Don't be a general partnership. PSA.
All right. So next topic up on the order: OpenAI has declared that they will become a for-profit company. Kyle, remember a few episodes ago we were talking about will they or won't they? And well, here you go.
I do recall.
So the CTO, Mira Murati, has resigned over 6 years with the company, citing a personal reflection for her decision. And her departure follows ongoing discussions about restructuring OpenAI into a for profit entity and also coincides, I think, quite notably with the resignations of many other senior leaders amid a larger leadership shakeup. So, Kyle, is this concerning that OpenAI, which was in a nonprofit structure in order to save the world and make sure AI doesn't take over everything, suddenly saying, well, maybe we should be a for profit, raise any concerns in your view?
I don't think it raises any more concerns than what was previously in existence. I mean, they weren't a true nonprofit. They were what was called like a hybrid profit or something like that, where there were limits on how much profit they could generate. The reality is, when you're talking about the numbers that they are looking at in terms of valuation and what they're trying to raise, you can't be a not for profit at those levels. You just can't. It doesn't make any sense. Specifically, this restructure is designed in part to make OpenAI more attractive to investors, as they're currently attempting to close a round of 6.5 billion with a B. Venture capital firm Thrive Capital has already committed a billion, and OpenAI's talks to get further investment from their longtime backer Microsoft, together with Apple, Nvidia, the UAE, and the firm MGX. Wall Street Journal previously reported. So it really doesn't come as a surprise. I am surprised, though, that I just didn't see Elon Musk tweeting about this, or maybe he did and I just didn't notice it because he was busy dancing around on stage a couple days ago. But do you think this is problematic? I mean, Moish, we talked about this in prior episodes, but I don't know, how do you feel? Is OpenAI, is AI something that belongs to humanity, or does it belong to the people who created it and they deserve to profit off it?
Well, I think fundamentally here there has to be a profit motive to spending billions, perhaps tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in training these models, because right now I think it was also reported, this is a little bit of a like a kind of like a leaked whatever, that they're currently losing, I think it's something like $5 billion, and they're expected to lose something like, I think projecting like $44 billion by 2029. It's like, all right, if you're just gonna take money and like light it on fire and burn it, um, well, it can't be for nothing in return, because who's going to keep doing this? I don't know.
Is that not a good strategy?
Yeah. So I mean, look, I guess some people would say, well, we shouldn't train these models because then they're going to be too smart and they're going to like destroy everyone.
Right.
I'm a little bit skeptical that there's going to be this AI enlightenment and it's going to take over the world, but I think it's important that if we're going to raise $6.5 billion, there has to be some sort of financial model that shows we're going to recoup that money. Otherwise, they're not going to have money to continue buying and training and
Exactly.
using GPU and et cetera.
That's exactly right. If it's not, it would become a rudderless ship at that point, and it would have, a million masters in no direction. It doesn't make any sense.
So what's your take, Kyle? I want to know, do you think OpenAI is going to cause the end of the world, or like what's your view on this?
I don't think OpenAI is going to cause the end of the world. I think social media is doing that all on its own and is doing a
Yeah,
great job at
needs no help.
it. Yeah, an interesting topic here, a practical guide to geofencing. Geofencing is a technology that uses global positioning services and other location-based services to create virtual boundaries, kind of like the Running Man. You remember when the dude ran out of the prison and his head exploded? That's what geofencing is. This enables businesses, though, to trigger actions such as notifications or data collection when users enter or leave specific areas, just like Running Man. This tool is widely applied in marketing, logistics, app development, but it also raises, I think, important privacy considerations that organizations must address to comply with legal regulations that ensure user content. Moish, how does geofencing apply in the cryptocurrency or blockchain context? What do you think is the sort of use case here?
Well, when you said Running Man, I was thinking of the little yellow AOL guy running across my screen,
That would have
like
been appropriate for this podcast. Yeah, sorry, I
30 years
ruined
ago or whatever.
it.
But when I think geofencing and cryptocurrency, my first thought is VPNs, virtual private networks, and the idea that if you're a blockchain project and you want to limit your liability to regulatory enforcement and other crazy stuff happening in the US market or other markets, doesn't have to just be the US, there are other places, but you might not want to be regulated, presumably. Then what you do is you say, well, we don't have any US users. We only have Asian users, or we only have users in this other jurisdiction. But we know we don't have US users. And how do we know that? Well, we've geofenced them out. We've taken our service and we've said if this user has an IP address associated with the United States, they are not welcome to use our services. Sorry, go somewhere else, right? And so the problem there, and I mentioned VPNs, is I think, and there's other, not just VPNs, but other technologies that allow you to circumvent your geographic nexus. And so that's what users do. Say, well, if you don't welcome me from the US, I'm going to take a flight down to the Brazil and access your service there through a VPN, even though I'm still sitting in my living room. So I don't know. So I think it's interesting from a legal perspective that companies are saying, well, I don't want U.S. citizens or U.S. users. Let's
Right.
geofence them out and then use those users. So, Kyle, what do you think? If you're a company and you're taking the approach of no U.S. users, thank you very much, but you kind of know that some people are accessing it through other methods, where
Right.
does that leave you?
Well, I think if you're trying to do it correctly, I mean, look, the United States is not exactly a friendly player in this playground. So you can understand why some of these other countries and these organizations want to geofence us out, because if they do, you're opening Pandora's box potentially, and we've seen that in play in our practice a lot of the times. So, but I think that the privacy concerns and the data harvesting is just rife with all kinds of problems. And you talk about VPNs. I mean, people use VPNs when they go to Europe because they want to watch Netflix. It's a pretty simple technology, but when you can extrapolate beyond what we're talking about here with cryptocurrencies, I think it can raise some real potential alarms and kind of nullify this whole concept altogether.
Well, look, people use VPNs for much more positive uses as well. If you're traveling for business or and you want to protect your privacy and make sure people aren't stealing your company's trade secrets,
Hmm.
use a VPN. If you're
Yeah.
just trying to protect your own privacy, you can use a VPN. So I think this technology is fundamental to like a free and private open internet. So I don't think the technology itself. I think it's neutral technology. But I do think there is this reliance on geofencing, and companies think, well, if only we geofence away users from whatever jurisdiction, then we have no liability. And although, as far as I know, this hasn't really been litigated squarely, at least not by
Right.
like a regulatory enforcement agency, I just don't think that the United States SEC, as it's currently composed, or other kind of regular, like DOJ, whatever else, are going to say, "Oh, sorry, you were geofencing U.S. users away. You're right. There's no liability."
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I mean, but I haven't seen any specific cases come down because they're too busy picking on the people here. But yeah, that's it's an interesting use. I'd be really curious to see how that kind of plays out in the coming years, especially if we are stuck in this regulatory logjam. I know there's, a lot of hope on the horizon for 2025, regardless of who wins the presidential election. But that remains to be seen as to what actually is going to happen. I mean, it's, and we know it's a popular topic in the election cycle, but who knows how, integral it really is to either party's platform. So I feel like we're just going to be stuck in the mud here. So maybe one of these cases will come out. Oh, curious. Interesting take. I like it.
Yeah. All right. Next topic on the order. The SEC has, speaking of, filed a notice of appeal in the XRP Ripple case, citing a conflict with Supreme Court precedent. So, as you may remember, the SEC lost in large part in its recent decision on whether Ripple had basically sold securities, and except for institutional sales, basically lost everything else that mattered. And so, look at here, we had discussed before, will they or won't they? And yes, they will. The SEC has appealed. So, Kyle, is this a good thing or a bad thing? This appeal of Judge Torres's order.
First off, I can't believe that Judge Torres's decision was July of last year. If you had asked me without looking at that, I would have been like, "That was 4 months ago. What are you talking about?" But no, here I am.
Oh my
Time is
gosh.
just whizzes by. In the context of these procedures exist for everybody to get a fair day in court, it's a good thing. But in reality, I don't understand why they have to do this. Why can't you just accept the fact that a judge disagreed with you and move forward? Move forward with any of the other countless other enforcement actions you have. You know how much money and time and resources they have spent trying to prosecute Ripple? It's insane. And all they're doing is costing the taxpayers money. They're costing Ripple money. Even if they win, what is the upside here? I just don't get it. I'm sorry, I don't get this.
That's I don't disagree with you from the SEC's perspective of like, if you're the SEC, why? What's in it for you? How is this furthering the goals of the agency in this case? But I think this is actually very like a good thing. I think we've been talking a lot about the star map that's been created by all these different legal decisions about cryptocurrency, mostly SEC regulatory cases, some putative class action cases, some other things that are kind of giving us like bits and pieces of what is the law, because there is no law except for the law as the judges see it, because we're kind of relying on Howie, which is too outdated to really matter for any of this stuff, and there's no guidance. Great. So where does the law come from? It doesn't come from district courts. It comes from appellate courts.
Right.
And unless you appeal and have an appellate decision as to what is the Howey test as applied to digital assets, you really have no binding precedent on other district courts. And so, from my perspective, this is a kind of a dog of a case. And the SEC is appealing, and you're going to get the Second Circuit to say, yeah, this is a dog of a case. There's no securities sales here. I mean, if that's what they decide. Now, it's very possible that the Second Circuit, which is we're both in the Second Circuit. This is the most important circuit court, as we all know. It's very possible they could say Judge Torres got this wrong. Everything here is a security sale. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So it could go that way. But I think even that is probably okay, because that tees it up to go to the Supreme Court, where I don't know, right? So
I just feel like if that's first off, that was a great answer and a terrific, with your litigation background. I mean, I've been to court twice in 20 years, and both times it was to fill in for somebody. So I don't know. It's not my area, but
I would have loved to be in a fly on wall for that.
if that's the first time I got hazed badly, I'll tell you about it offline. It
That's
was terrible.
terrible.
It was terrible. They're setting themselves up for even further failure, because, Judge Torres's decision, at least from my perspective, and not just because I agree with it, it was very well reasoned. It was fair. It was down the line. She really analyzed all of the different sales and the securities laws and how it applies to them. And I just feel like they are really kicking the hornet's nest. And really, if they want to continue down this path of just nailing everybody to the ground, they might be really shooting themselves in the foot with this. I don't know.
Well, so right, but I mean that's exactly it. I think it's great. I think from a stepping back, I think this is great. I think it's great if they're actually going to go through with the appeal with this. I think this is on net a good thing. It has potential for disaster, but I think even like a really bad appellate decision, only sets like well, like then everyone's going to want to appeal that. I mean, like on the Ripple side, I assume if they still have the funds to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So on net, I think it's just it's great. I just don't understand why the SEC would want to do it.
Yeah.
Just pick a better case to do it if you're the SEC. I mean, what's in it for them?
Yeah. Right. All right.
All
We'll
right,
see. We'll see what happens.
we'll see. Yeah,
We'll
I mean
see.
the briefing here is going to be interesting, and I'm really excited to see. I'm
Hyped,
sure
actually.
like top legal minds in the country are going to be weighing in on this. Maybe we'll have to find a way to submit a block and order Amici here, and block and order and friends. If you're interested in filing an Amici on the Ripple
Give us a
case,
call.
please, contact us.
Yeah. Interesting topic coming out of El Salvador. And just before I get into it, just we're going to talk about President Bukele down in El Salvador. We're not commenting on his politics. We are, sort of nonpartisan here at Block and Order. We're not going to get into, whether the way he governs the country is right or wrong. We're just talking about the Bitcoin law in El Salvador and just how this all, shakes out. So that was my disclaimer.
Kyle, if our audience is concerned about our political viewpoints as related to El Salvador, I like.
Well, him
We got some
specifically,
spicy political
he
takes.
does some things that are, as they say, questionable. But nonetheless, we don't judge. We
No,
certainly don't judge other
this is a
countries.
non-political show.
Correct.
We're just the facts,
I have to
sir.
say it. I don't want to I don't want people to at me, everywhere. It does happen. So the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, not Impossible Mission Force, is urging El Salvador to limit the scope of the Bitcoin law and increase regulations surrounding its use, citing concerns about financial stability and risks associated with crypto in general. Despite this, President Bukele remains a staunch advocate for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin law went into effect in September of 2021, which is the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. The IMF is urging El Salvador to limit the scope of its Bitcoin law and enhance regulations around the use of crypto. They recommend tightening controls, increasing oversight of the sector, reducing public sector exposure. Moish, is this? Do you know a lot about what's going on in El Salvador? It's actually something that I followed in no small part because Alex Gladstein's book, which I love and tout all the time, has a great chapter on this very topic, and I find it really fascinating.
I've read a little bit here and there, and like I know about Bitcoin Beach, and I know they're trying to get the Lightning Network, and they forced everyone to accept crypto, and it didn't really kind of work. But like that's basically it. I don't know why this concerns the IMF. Like, don't you have
I feel
like
the
bigger
same
fish to
way.
fry?
Right. Yeah, right. I feel the same way. I mean, El Salvador is the smallest and most densely populated country in Central America. It's a country that was just ravaged by civil war and internal strife and, you know, just governments that weren't functioning properly. They don't have a strong banking system. The GDP per capita is $3,500. So since the Civil
Crazy.
War, I know it's crazy. So since the Civil War has ended, and the people are trying to find a way just to earn a living, just to feed their families. You have gang violence. You put your money in the bank, you have no guarantees that you're going to be able to extract it. So now they have Bitcoin that can use as legal tender. You have baristas who can accept it, accept it as tips and do something with it and keep it safe. For the IMF to come out and say, no, 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 it's, I get it that they want to keep their eyes on it. That's fine, but give these people a lifeline. I mean, come on. To me, that defeats the purpose of why you exist.
Yeah, I mean I think you're exactly right. I mean, it just the idea that they are strong arming a country away from Bitcoin for whatever reason, it just doesn't make it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess look, if this country had become drunk on Bitcoin and was failing because of their Bitcoin investments, then I would say, you know what, like IMF, maybe you've got something here. But by all accounts, this has been quite successful, and
Yeah.
the country is yeah, the adoption within El Salvador isn't massive, but from like a government investment standpoint, they've done completely fine. They've made money. Their Bitcoin's worth more than they started with, and it doesn't seem any less sustainable or irresponsible than like all the other crazy stuff happening in Central and South America.
Seems better than when they tried, dollar. They tried to adopt the U.S. dollar, and the whole country collapsed. I mean, where's the IMF then? That's right, IMF. We're coming for you.
That's Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So next topic on the order, crypto.com has sued the SEC. We've had a lot of topics about people suing the SEC on the show recently, but now we're talking about crypto.com, who had received a Wells notice claiming that the agency had overstepped. So the lawsuit claims that the agency overstepped regulatory authority by treating nearly all crypto assets as securities. So the lawsuit seeks to challenge the SEC's inconsistent regulatory approach regarding the classification of various digital currencies. So, what do we say here besides like go get them?
Yeah, go get them. I mean, that's exactly
go,
right.
go get
It's I love when I love when these companies do that when they get the Wells notice and they just go right after them. And it's interesting to note the some of the specifics of their response. You know, crypto.com's legal action follows the trend where multiple companies, Robinhood and Coinbase, did this. The regulatory environment, as you noted, is increasingly tense. But they said in their response, our decision to sue the SEC follows our receipt of a Wells notice from the Commission, illustrating their unauthorized and unjust regulation by enforcement campaign continues, despite, and this is my favorite part, despite bipartisan indications that the next administration will take a more constructive and effective approach to advancing crypto in the US. While that's true, and I'm all for crypto.com here, is that a viable legal argument? Like, you guys are on the way out. No matter what happens, it's not going to be as bad next year, so you can't do this? That sounds a little tenuous to me.
I think that's like a marketing statement, and I think well, look, I don't know that that's like the basis for the lawsuit. I think the basis for the lawsuit is the inconsistency, the lack of fair notice, just like the failure of regulatory guidance, etc. All the stuff we've been talking about
Yeah,
on Block and Order for the past year. But I think I think that's right. I think this is something I heard. I was just at the Fordham Regulatory Law Conference for digital assets last week or earlier this week. And this is something I heard from a bunch of people that are very clued into the political status in Washington. And the consensus is, despite what you think about Harris and her administration, Trump has been, I think, a bit more clear about where he stands on crypto. Whatever you again, like Bukele, like I'm not being political here. I'm just saying he's objectively just
sure.
said more about crypto than
100%.
Harris. And the thinking is that either administration will take a more constructive and effective approach to cryptocurrency. So like it can't be worse than it is now. So let's just ride it out and see what happens after January.
Right.
So from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, I think that makes sense. From a legal perspective, yeah, like it is what it is.
Thought it was interesting. It's also worth noting that earlier today, breaking news, the SEC actually sued Cumberland, the Chicago-based crypto trading firm, again alleging that Solana and Polygon are securities. And it's like, I,
Uh,
I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, what are you talking about?
but like, has the SEC sued Solana? Has the SEC sued Polygon?
Not that I'm aware of. They've sued
Not that
these
I'm aware. So
companies that trade
why the
them.
heck are they suing Cumberland? Like what? Like why would you sue if you think someone's offering securities and like it's.
It's like the old joke about law school, and they say, "How do they grade the papers?" And they would take them from the top step, throw them down, and it's like whatever landed on this step got an A, then B, and C. It's like that. It's like you open up the yellow book for you kids out there, the yellow pages. Cumberland, boom, lawsuit. Like that's how it seems. It's ridiculous. Here is a truly fascinating one, Moish. I love this. Federal prosecutors in Boston have charged three crypto companies, Gotbit, ZM Quant, and CLS Global, along with 15 individuals, including executives and employees at those firms, with fraud and market manipulation. These charges stem from an extensive investigation that revealed the use of alleged illegal trading practices. These companies allegedly engaged in wash trading, which we've talked about in Block and Order a lot, a practice where trades are executed without actual market intent. The idea is to juice the price, create a kerfuffle, and you can sell with juice prices. Great. All that's fascinating. That's not why we're talking about it, though.
Not what we're
Moish,
talking about.
the FBI here created its own cryptocurrency and company as part of the investigation called Next Fund AI. The token itself was actually also a security, which is pretty interesting, and they did it to identify, disrupt, and bring these alleged fraudsters to justice. Moish, is that too far? Where does the FBI get off doing that?
Wow. First of all, this is just outstanding. What a case. I'm just blown away.
I'm with you.
The idea
This is
that the
awesome.
FBI is saying, you know what? There's definitely wash trading going on here. There's definitely market manipulation. How do we prove that?
We'll show you.
Yeah, let's launch a token. I mean, this reminds me of I'm thinking of like, what's a good film where the undercover detective goes like a little bit too far. I'm thinking like The Departed,
The Departed.
uh,
Yeah.
Reservoir Dog. Like what else would you go? It's like, oh no, like you actually did the crime and like shot the person or like did the
Yeah.
drugs. Like what's your example? I don't know.
Right. Reservoir Dogs. He shot somebody. You're totally right. I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah. So
Wait,
they're launching their own crypto token. This is amazing.
right.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Like, can they? I guess we'll find out. Like, should they? Like, I don't
Right.
know.
It
It seems like a little aggressive to then do this and be like, oh, just a joke. It's actually a fake token. But I will say the one thing that did come out of it is there was I saw a chart that was basically communications between the undercover detectives and the market makers saying, all right, now get it up to $1 million in volume, and then you see the chart go boom,
right.
and then it goes back down like, hey, you're
Yeah.
not in a million anymore, and it goes boom, boom. So it does make it really really clear when you have all the communications and the market makers in on it, that like the market looked really manipulated.
It does. Right.
And
And allegedly these employees, I mean, that's the reason why people engage them was to wash trade in order to juice the price. It's just, I mean, the FBI, they created Next Fund AI is a website. It has terms and conditions and privacy policy on it. It looks like a real website. And it's
there's a smart contract that was
yeah.
audited by like a dude on Twitter who's like, oops, I accidentally audited the FBI smart contract.
Right. Hey, imagine being that guy. Good job.
Like, I think he got paid.
You hope. It is the government. They take a long time. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if the company was obviously doing this kind of thing, did the FBI actually need to go and create its own token? They couldn't just show that they were doing it with the other existing assets. Why'd they have to go ahead and do that? Did somebody make a killing at the FBI? I don't know. It seems like they went just a hair. They were a little too enthusiastic in the enforcement of their duties. I don't know.
Hey, but it's a fun story for Block and Order, so I'm glad
It's a
they
fun
did.
story for Block and Order, but very quick PSA for you listeners out there. There are two myths I would like to dispel that nonsense people believe because of movies. And one of them is if you are selling drugs and an undercover cop walks up to you and buys the drugs, that is not entrapment. You were selling drugs. That is not how entrapment works. And secondly, if the undercover cop walks up to you and you ask them if they're a cop, they do not have to tell you they're a cop. That is insane. Think of how dangerous that would be. Movies have convinced people that these things are true, and it drives me bananas.
I will remind our audience that we do not give legal advice, but the cop does not have to tell you the truth.
So stupid. I can't believe people believe that. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me.
Well said. All right, first up in our lightning round, a punk ape, one of the most valuable CryptoPunks out there, making it one of the most valuable NFTs in the world, sold for only $23,000 in change after it got stuck in a defunct fractionalization website. So, bye bye, punk.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Circle, the issuer of the USDC, is relocating its headquarters from Boston to New York City, specifically to One World Trade Center. This move, announced by CEO Jeremy Allaire, aims to enhance Circle's integration with TradFi as it prepares for an IPO and emphasizes the company's commitment to the crypto industry despite regulatory challenges in the U.S. As a New Yorker, I know this is small potatoes, but it's nice to see something happening in New York that is crypto positive.
Look, New York should be the crypto hub of the world, and that's amazing. But the
Good.
shame of this is, as a New York resident, we can't use Circle. You can use USDC, but you can't
One day.
interact as a commercial entity with the exchange window.
That's
It's
true.
garbage. The AssangeDAO, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, was originally, as you remember, fundraising for Julian Assange's defense. Now faces accusations of being a rug pull after transferring its remaining treasury of about $10 million to another foundation without the community's approval. So if you're in a DAO that doesn't really act as a DAO, sometimes the money gets pulled away, and I guess you got to deal with it.
My God, that's terrible. Hamster Kombat is facing significant backlash after it was revealed that 57% of its users were excluded from an upcoming token airdrop, a decision that has sparked frustration and accusations of unfairness among the community. The project's team has cited technical issues, yeah, that's the problem, and eligibility criteria as reasons for the exclusion, but many users feel this undermines the principle of community engagement. And I feel like every time I turn around, there's some company doing a token launch and they are just getting hammered by their users for unfair practices. Every week it's another one.
Did you do the hamster tapping?
I was doing it in my
Yeah,
soul.
yeah. Did you get an airdrop?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did too. Like it's like
Why
it's
not?
done. They did an airdrop, and now what? Like who's gonna use the app anymore? It's so stupid.
Not me.
Yeah, getting it out. I don't think they know what they're doing. I think they bungled it. Next up, Bhutan is now a Bitcoin miner. It was revealed that the nation state of Bhutan, which I believe is still either the happiest or one of the happiest places on earth, now holds approximately $780 million worth of Bitcoin, making it the fourth largest government holder of the cryptocurrency. That's amazing. I don't know, like you said, El Salvador is $3,500 of GDP per person. I don't think Bhutan has that. This is pretty incredible. And they have a really impressive, I think, carbon neutral energy generation,
I believe that's
and
right.
now a really impressive investment arm that owns all this crypto. So good job, Bhutan.
Yeah, nicely done. And lastly, Sean Diddy Combs, oh God, he's not having a good month, has enlisted
Oh
the same
no.
attorney as SBF to defend him against serious federal charges, including but not limited to sex trafficking and racketeering. This is the best part. The two are currently sharing a jail unit at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn after both were denied bail. How is that? That's insane.
That has to be the most interesting jail bunkmate combination of all
That's
time. I thought you were
crazy.
going to say the most interesting part was the baby oil, but you're right. This is more interesting.
I don't want to go there. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Block and Order. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. If there's any topics that you'd like us to cover or have any questions or just want to at me for the stupid thing I said earlier, please drop a comment down below. We take it very seriously. Please note this show is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only. This is not legal advice. Please hire your own attorney. Now, the discussion of nor the fact that Moish and I may own any of the assets we discuss is meant to serve as an endorsement of these assets. A very special thank you to producer Sean, his first maiden voyage as producer, and I think he did a fantastic job. So on behalf of Moish Peltz, I'm Kyle Lawrence. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Take care.
And let's go Mets, baby.